The unbeatable enemy emerges. The galaxy had known war before. Many empires had risen and fallen, but none were like the HFY Dominion. They were different. They were unstoppable. For the last 50 years, they had crushed every enemy that dared to stand against them. Their warships were massive, covered in thick armor and advanced shields. Their weapons could destroy entire fleets in minutes. Every battle ended the same way: the enemy's complete destruction. The HFY had no mercy. Surrender was never an option. Those who resisted were wiped out. Those who obeyed were enslaved. Their empire stretched across hundreds of star systems, and no one could challenge them. Now they had come for Xiphos 9, a peaceful world on the edge of Terran space. The battle begins. The defenders of Xiphos 9 knew they had no chance. Their ships were old, their weapons weak, but they refused to run. The people of Xiphos 9 had lived free for centuries, and they would rather die than become slaves. When the HFY Armada arrived, it was a sight of pure terror. Hundreds of warships hovered in the dark void, their metallic bodies gleaming under the distant sun. The flagship, the Vortex Reaper, was the largest of them all. A city-sized battleship with enough firepower to burn a planet to ashes. High Lord Varric, the supreme commander of the Dominion fleet, stood on the bridge of his ship. He gazed at the planet below, his golden eyes filled with amusement. "Pathetic," he muttered. "They actually think they can resist us." The defenders sent a desperate message. "This is Xiphos 9. We will not bow to the Dominion. If you attack, we will fight until the last ship falls." Varric chuckled. "Then let's make this quick." The fall of Xiphos 9. With a single wave of his hand, Varric gave the order. The HFY warships opened fire. Flashes of blue plasma lit up the battlefield as energy cannons roared. The sky above Xiphos 9 turned into a storm of fire and destruction. The defenders tried to fight back, but their weapons barely scratched the enemy's shields. One by one, their ships exploded into burning wreckage. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. Varric watched as the last Terran ship, a small outdated frigate, tried to escape. "Destroy them," he ordered. A single shot from the Vortex Reaper obliterated the fleeing ship. The battle was over. Xiphos 9 was defenseless. No one could stop them. The HFY ground forces landed on the planet, marching through the burning cities. The survivors were rounded up, forced to kneel before their new masters. Varric's image appeared in the sky, broadcasted to every device. "You have been conquered," he announced. "Your world belongs to the HFY Dominion now." Fear spread across the galaxy. Another world had fallen, and no one had been able to stop it. Other civilizations watched in silence, knowing they could be next. For 50 years, the HFY had won every battle. Their fleets were too strong, their technology too advanced. No enemy had ever challenged them. No enemy had ever survived. But that was about to change. An unexpected presence. Just as Varric prepared to leave, an officer's voice broke through the silence. "Commander, we have an unidentified contact approaching." Varric frowned. "Impossible. We destroyed everything in this sector." The officer hesitated. "It's a Terran warship, sir, but it's unlike anything we've ever seen before." On the main screen, a single ship appeared out of the darkness. It was massive, larger than any human vessel recorded. Its dark metal hull was covered in thick armor, and its engines burned with a strange blue light. It moved with purpose, heading straight for them. The bridge of the Vortex Reaper fell silent. Varric's golden eyes narrowed. "What is this?" The officer's voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, I think it's a battleship." The HFY had never feared anything before, but as they watched the unknown ship approach, an unfamiliar feeling crept into their hearts. For the first time, they felt doubt. And for the first time, they felt fear. The Terran Leviathan arrives. The bridge of the Vortex Reaper was silent. Every Xeltar officer stared at the mysterious warship on the screen. It moved through space with absolute confidence, ignoring the wreckage of destroyed Terran ships. Varric clenched his fists. One ship. They send one ship against us. His officers exchanged nervous glances. It made no sense. The Terran forces had been completely wiped out. No reinforcements had been expected. And yet this massive warship had arrived. "Scan it," Varric ordered. The results shocked them. Hull composition. Unknown alloy, stronger than any Xeltar material. Energy signature, off the charts. No known human vessel emitted such raw power. Weapons, undetermined, but dozens of unknown weapon ports detected. Shield strength, unmeasurable. Impossible, one officer whispered. Humans don't have this kind of technology. But the ship was real. It was here. And it wasn't stopping. A one-sided attack begins. Varric sneered. Destroy it. 100 Xeltar warships locked on and fired. Plasma cannons flared to life, lighting up the darkness of space. A storm of energy blasts raced toward the Terran ship. The shots hit and disappeared. The Terran ship didn't even flinch. The shields absorbed everything, like a black hole swallowing light. On the bridge of the Vortex Reaper, panic began to rise. "Commander, it's completely unaffected." Varric's golden eyes narrowed. "Fire again. All weapons." Every ship in the Xeltar fleet unleashed their full firepower. Torpedoes, plasma beams, energy lances, an apocalyptic barrage of destruction rained upon the unknown warship. For a moment, it looked like the Terran ship had vanished within the explosion. Fire and debris spread across space. Varric allowed himself a smirk. Foolish humans. They thought one ship. Then the flames cleared. The ship was still there, untouched. And then it fired back. The behemoth unleashes its power. A deep hum resonated through space as the Terran warship's main cannon activated. A massive glowing barrel emerged from the ship's hull. Then, boom. A single shot tore through the Xeltar fleet. The projectile moved so fast that the enemy ships had no time to react. 3 Xeltar cruisers exploded instantly, vaporized into dust. Varric staggered back in shock. That's not possible. Before he could recover, the Terran warship moved. It wasn't slow like the massive Xeltar dreadnoughts. It glided through the battlefield like a predator, dodging incoming fire with unnatural precision. And it kept firing. With every shot, another Dominion warship was destroyed. Varric's fleet, the fleet that had never lost a battle, was crumbling. A voice of warning. Then the impossible happened again. A deep booming voice echoed across all Xeltar communication channels. It was calm, but filled with absolute authority. "Xeltar Dominion, this is the TSS Behemoth. You have violated Terran space. Your reign ends today." The voice sent a chill through every Xeltar soldier. No human had ever spoken to them with such power, such certainty. Varric clenched his teeth. He refused to believe this. "It's just one ship," he roared. "Surround it. Crush it." But deep inside, for the first time in his life, he felt fear. The behemoth strikes back. The Xeltar fleet had never known defeat. For 50 years, they had dominated the stars, crushing every enemy without resistance. But now, they were the ones being hunted. The TSS Behemoth moved through the battlefield like a shadow of death. Every shot it fired found its mark. Every movement was calculated, efficient, merciless. On the bridge of the Vortex Reaper, High Lord Varric clenched his fists. How? How is this happening? The answer was clear. Humanity had not just built another warship. They had built a monster. Xeltar's last defense. Varric refused to accept defeat. "Form a defensive line," he roared. "Overload the shields. Fire everything we have." The Xeltar warships obeyed. They surrounded the behemoth, forming a deadly crossfire. Plasma cannons, torpedoes, disruptors, every weapon in the fleet opened fire. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Flashes of energy blasted through the void, turning space into a blinding storm of destruction. And yet, the behemoth did not fall. The ship moved through the storm like it was untouchable. Its shields absorbed every hit, and its weapons never stopped firing. One by one, the Xeltar ships exploded. A battle that should have been a guaranteed victory had turned into a massacre. Terran strategy unfolds. The Xeltar had always fought with brute force. They overwhelmed their enemies with superior numbers, crushing them under sheer firepower. But humans fought differently. They were unpredictable. They adapted. They thought like predators. The behemoth had deployed eye-control decoys, creating multiple sensor ghosts across the battlefield. The Xeltar fired at illusions, wasting their ammunition. Meanwhile, the real behemoth moved unseen, launching precise counterattacks. An entire Xeltar battleship detonated from within. Its reactor had been hacked remotely, forced into an overload. Another warship lost control of its engines and crashed into its own allies. It wasn't just firepower that was winning this battle. It was superior strategy. The behemoth targets the flagship. The battlefield was littered with Xeltar wreckage. Only a handful of warships remained. And now, the behemoth turned toward the Vortex Reaper. Varric felt a chill run through his body. For the first time in his life, he was the prey. "Commander, it's locking onto us," an officer whispered in terror. Varric gritted his teeth. "I will not run. Charge forward. If we die in battle." The Vortex Reaper's engines roared to life. The massive flagship charged straight at the behemoth, weapons fully powered. But then, the behemoth fired first. A single shot from its main cannon tore through the darkness. The projectile was the size of a city block, moving at near light speed. It hit the Vortex Reaper dead center. The flagship didn't explode immediately. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, the entire front half of the Vortex Reaper simply ceased to exist. The blast had ripped through the ship's core. Flames and debris poured into space as the mighty flagship began to break apart. Varric staggered back, staring at the destruction in disbelief. No, this isn't possible. The behemoth closed in, its dark hull casting a shadow over the dying Xeltar ship. Then, the Terran voice spoke once more. "Your fleet is gone. Your empire is broken." A pause. "Surrender." Varric felt rage boil inside him. The Xeltar did not surrender. They had never surrendered. And yet, as he looked at the wreckage around him, he knew they had lost. For the first time in history, the Xeltar Dominion had been defeated, and the entire galaxy was watching. The Xeltar's last stand. The Vortex Reaper was dying. Flames erupted from its shattered hull, and escape pods launched in all directions. The once mighty flagship of the Xeltar Dominion was now nothing more than a floating wreck. On the bridge, High Lord Varric refused to look away. His golden eyes burned with fury as he watched the TSS Behemoth hover in the darkness. It didn't move. It didn't fire another shot. It was waiting. A voice crackled over the comms again, calm, unwavering, powerful. "Surrender." Varric bared his teeth. Never. A desperate plan. He turned to his officers, those who remained. Smoke filled the bridge. Sparks rained from failing systems. But Varric was not done fighting. "All remaining ships, converge on the enemy," he roared. "We may die, but we will not go alone." Across the battlefield, the last surviving Xeltar warships answered his call. They had nothing left to lose. Destroyers, frigates, and what remained of the fleet's dreadnoughts charged toward the behemoth. Their weapons burned with desperate fury. The behemoth's countermove. The Terran warship remained still. Then, without warning, its hull shifted. New weapons emerged from its armored plating. Rows of automated turrets locked onto the incoming fleet. A deep hum filled the void. Then it fired. Beams of burning energy sliced through the charging Celtar ships like a hot blade through ice. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield. One by one, the last warships of the Dominion fell. But Varric kept going. His flagship was failing, but he pushed the engines beyond their limits. He would ram the Terran battleship. If weapons couldn't kill it, then he would crash his dying warship into it and die with honor. The Vortex Reaper surged forward, fire trailing from its ruined engines. And then, the behemoth vanished. The Omega Disruptor. Not through speed, not through cloaking. The behemoth released a pulse of energy. It spread across the battlefield, invisible but unstoppable. Varric's ship froze in place. The engines died. The weapons flickered. The ship's systems shut down completely. His hands trembled as he saw the same thing happening to the remaining Celtar warships. Everything was shutting down. It wasn't an EMP. It wasn't a hack. It was something far worse. The behemoth had just disabled an entire fleet in seconds. The end of the Celtar reign. Varric slumped in his chair. The war was over. The Celtar had never been defeated before. And yet, today, they had lost everything. The behemoth's voice came over the comms once more, cold and final. Your empire has fallen. The galaxy is free. Varric closed his eyes. He had spent his entire life believing in the dominance of the Celtar, that they were the strongest, that no species could ever challenge them. But now he saw the truth. Humanity was something else, something far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. And the last thing he heard before the behemoth vanished into the void was the sound of his empire crumbling. A message to the galaxy. The battle was over. The once mighty Celtar Dominion, rulers of the stars, had been utterly defeated. Their fleet lay in ruins, silent wreckage floating in the void. Their strongest warships had been destroyed. Their most feared flagship, the Vortex Reaper, was now a powerless, drifting husk. And above it all, the TSS behemoth remained untouched, a silence that spoke volumes. Across the galaxy, thousands of species had watched the battle unfold. The Dominion had made sure of that. Before the battle, their leaders had broadcasted live footage of their attack, confident that Xiphos 9 would be nothing more than another conquered world. But now, that same transmission was still running, and the galaxy had witnessed something impossible. The unbeatable Celtar had been defeated by a single Terran warship. For the first time in history, the unstoppable empire had been stopped. And then the behemoth spoke. The Terran broadcast. A deep, commanding voice echoed across all Dominion channels. Every surviving Celtar soldier heard it. Every enslaved world heard it. Every empire across the stars heard it. This is the Terran warship behemoth. The Celtar Dominion has fallen. Their fleet is broken. Their rule is over. To those who have suffered under their tyranny, your chains are gone. To those who still serve them, surrender or be destroyed. The age of the Celtar is over. The galaxy is free. The message was short, simple, undeniable, and it sent shockwaves across the stars. Galactic reactions. On worlds once conquered by the Celtar, cheers erupted. Cities that had lived under fear for generations now saw hope. On Celtar-occupied planets, rebellions began instantly. The enslaved rose up, knowing their masters had been defeated. Other empires, once afraid to challenge the Dominion, now saw their chance. They no longer feared the Celtar. They feared humanity. And on the bridge of the Vortex Reaper, High Lord Varric watched it all unfold. His empire was crumbling in real time. He had not just lost a battle. He had lost everything. The behemoth leaves, but its legacy remains. The TSS behemoth didn't stay to conquer. It didn't demand surrender. It didn't take over. It simply vanished. Without a trace, The warship disappeared into deep space, its mission complete. It had done what it came to do. But the impact of that battle, the sight of a lone Terran warship destroying an entire fleet, would never be forgotten. Legends would be told about the day humanity changed the galaxy forever. And the name of the behemoth would echo through history as the unstoppable force that ended an empire. The legend of the behemoth. The TSS behemoth was gone. No one knew where it had disappeared to. No signal, no trace, no hyperspace wake. It had simply vanished into the void. But its impact, that would never fade. The stories begin. In the days after the battle, rumors spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Every species, every empire, every world whispered about the Terran warship that had single-handedly crushed the Xeltar Dominion. Some called it a ghost ship, an ancient weapon awakened from a forgotten war. Others believed it wasn't built by humans at all, but by something even more powerful. A few even swore that it wasn't a ship, but a living entity. The truth, no one knew. The fall of the Xeltar. Without their fleet, without their leader, the Xeltar Dominion collapsed overnight. Their once mighty empire, which had ruled for over 50 years, fractured into chaos. Former allies turned against them. Rebellions erupted. Entire planets declared independence. The Xeltar, once the most feared force in the galaxy, were now scattered and leaderless. And High Lord Varric. He disappeared, last seen aboard a stolen shuttle, vanishing into the stars like a ghost. But wherever he went, he would never forget the name of the warship that destroyed everything he had built. Behemoth, the fear of humanity. Before the battle, humans had been seen as just another species. After the battle, they were something else entirely. If the Terrans could build a warship like that, what else were they hiding? No one wanted to find out. Terran space became sacred ground. No empire dared to cross their borders. No raider or slaver even considered attacking the human world. Because in the back of every leader's mind, one fear lingered. What if the behemoth returned? A final warning. Some say the behemoth still roams the galaxy, watching from the darkness. Waiting. It doesn't conquer. It doesn't demand tribute. But if another empire rises, if another tyrant tries to claim the stars, it will come back. And when it does, the galaxy will burn once more. The galaxy will never forget. The Xeltar Dominion was gone. The galaxy had changed overnight. No more war fleets tearing through peaceful worlds. No more civilizations trembling under Xeltar rule. The once feared empire had been reduced to scattered remnants, hunted by the very species they once enslaved. But even as the Xeltar faded into history, something else took their place. The shadow of the behemoth. The TSS behemoth had not just won a battle. It had rewritten the balance of power. For decades, the Xeltar had been the ultimate force in the galaxy. They ruled because no one could oppose them. But now, there was something stronger. And that something was human. Every ruler, every warlord, every admiral feared one thing above all else. Would the behemoth return? No one knew how many more ships like it existed. No one knew where it had come from. But they all knew this. They could not risk war with humanity. The Terran silence. The strange part. The Terrans didn't gloat. They didn't expand, didn't claim Xeltar territory, didn't demand tribute. They simply remained silent. No official statements, no threats, no warnings. And that silence was more terrifying than war. The legacy of fear. The once mighty empires of the galaxy quietly reinforced their borders. Slavers, pirates, and warlords vanished from human space. Some species, desperate to avoid war, sent gifts and envoys to Earth, hoping to stay on their good side. Humanity hadn't asked for any of this. But after the behemoth's victory, they were no longer seen as equals. They were seen as a force beyond comprehension, the unseen watcher. And so, time passed. Wars still happened. New empires rose. The galaxy moved on. But every now and then, rumors would spread. A pirate fleet destroyed in deep space. A warlord's fortress reduced to rubble overnight. An invasion fleet that never arrived at its target. No one ever saw the attack. No wreckage was left behind. Only whispers remained. The behemoth watches. The behemoth protects. The behemoth never forgets. And so, long after the last Celtar world fell, the legend of the behemoth lived on. Because if one thing was certain, the galaxy would never forget the day humanity proved it could not be challenged.